to everyone. I'm Daniel Diaz. Can you hear me properly? Because we don't have the mic or anything yet. Yes. Oh, okay, cool. Well, I've been working for almost 5 years and a bit more, starting across the different ambits, first on cryptocurrencies. Like most of us that started a while, we start with Bitcoin. Was the typical use case, almost all of us. We start doing first like trading. We were focused more on the financial use cases, just as the cryptocurrency. And well, I evolved more into creating different companies, mostly focused on technology. And the previous one, it was called Heroes. It was focused on how we use cryptocurrencies to do macro payments with something such as beacons. These sort of small devices that work with Bluetooth. Our first proof concept was about doing, just on a ski station, we have something that we call a profile. It's like the season ticket. You can go over. So the things that you usually have to buy in order to get into the ski station. What we used to do, it was just to allow people to just walk across the station, so we could recognize the identity of the person, and we could just set a payment. So you were able just to go walk into the ski station and just ski, without no user experience, no onboarding process at all. The next company I founded was called, co-founded was Bit2Me. There's something here in the room that also works in Bit2Me. And also this company was mostly focused on how could we use a current ATM infrastructure in order to allow people to convert their Bitcoins into cash, and not even needing a bank account, which is something really, really interesting for immigrants, especially people from South America, that really want to send funds from abroad to Spain. And the last company I founded, it was called Furai. It was just a consultancy focused on digital transformation through blockchain. So we were really into blockchain educational services and also a strategic consultancy. Well, I formerly work also leading the blockchain practice in Everest, and currently I move to direct the global practice of an American consultancy that is here in Spain for almost 3 years and a half, called USC Global. Well, Carlos?
I'm Carlos Kuskowski. I'm a computer engineer, and I have different lives, and I work for BBVA in the last 10 years, leading different departments, leading mobile teams, big data, cloud teams, trying to also make disruption in financial ecosystem. And in the last 2 years, I'm leading the technology department as a CTO of a business unit called New Digital Businesses. We are trying around the world to create new businesses through M&A, through VCs, or creating new projects. Also, my team started the blockchain, the crypto lab, the blockchain and DLT team in BBVA 3 years and a half ago. And now we are founder members of Enterprise Alliance, R3, and also Hyperledger. And I have now Alastria, the Spanish blockchain. And we are making different proof of concept, moving money around the world with Ripple and with other partners and companies that I hope that we could tell in a few months. And we are super enthusiastic and excited about what is happening about this ecosystem and what is the change that blockchain, not only the technology, also the cryptos and the tokens could create to the society. And as we are not too much people, Daniel, we used to talk a lot, so we can talk without or with beers hours and hours, but I think that could be more interesting.
If you come a bit closer so we can have something more conversational, not just Carlos and I talking to you, just having some more direct conversation. We would really appreciate that if you could come a bit closer.
Or if you don't want,
at least quite big and
at least trying to be sure that we are not talking about things that you are not interested about, and we can try to model our message and also learn from your experience and try to create a conversation between the people that are here, and not only to try to comment our thoughts. But, you want to start?
Yeah, first of all, we would like to share with you why this is something that really passions us. And it's just because we really think it's a really foundational technology. Like, if we go reverse, like so many years ago, well, if we go like even to the 80s, like sending information abroad, it was kind of not so easy. Like, if I wanted a way of exchanging information with a really easy user experience for free and in real time, it was not something that easy at the moment. And now, currently, we can, all of us do this. We can add different layers of technology that allow us not just to exchange messages, but also to build different sort of service layers on top of it. Now we can exchange video, we can do every sort of different things. Now if we go back to payments, for example, we have sort of this problem right now. If I want to send a payment from one banking institution to another in the world, I have a different set of currencies, it takes time. It takes a bit of cost. So why is that? First of all, now the current technology infrastructures, especially the ones that use big corporations and banks, are almost based in something, sort of happens, information happens, called the mainframes. The mainframes is something that was invented in the late 50s just to secure in a really complicated way information that is really valuable. What is the problem with this? Okay, if we want banks and big companies to be interoperable, if we want banks and big companies, especially banks, because this is one of the most companies that invest more on this, they have really strong issues with this because their core infrastructure is designed to be secure because it is isolated. So what happens now? We have incoming regulations as the new Payment Service Directive that says that now, like, open your internal information of your customers for initiating payments is something mandatory. This is not something that is going to come far away. It's just starting in September. It has started and it's going to be implemented from February of next year. If we talk about GDPR, also the new regulation about personal data, it tells big companies that if I'm a customer of a big company and I want to cancel my account or go to another company, then I should be able to say, okay, now you have to give me all my information and you're not going to have it anymore. Or maybe I just want to do an onboarding and just from bank A, and now I want to go to bank B and not do all the onboarding process and give all my personal information. Maybe you just should be the one that does it. So that really impacts the way like big company works because they are not designed to be interoperable. They are not designed to work with really open ecosystems of innovation. They're just not. So going also backwards, there was a really big issue that was trying to be solved over more than the last 40 years, also by the brightest computational minds, which is the double spending. The double spending is one of the foundations of blockchain technology. And it's something as simple as in the physical world, maybe I have a wallet. So you can see this is mine. And now I give it to Carlos. Carlos, take care of it. So now you can see, hey, I don't have it anymore. Okay. So we can translate this into the normal system. If I'm bank A and I have my ledger, I know I have this. But bank B, Carlos, has no idea that if I have this or not. So we use intermediaries for that. For intermediary, also like building trust between different sorts of companies. And this is something that's really typical for the so-called Internet of Information. And now we are like going into something that is so-called Internet of Value. And it's now, Carlos and I, we're going to share the same ledger. And in this same ledger, he will know if now I have this, and now if he has it.
Give me.
So I don't know if it shares out the sample, but this is revolutionary. Why? Because now the internet was something, of course, really revolutionary. But it lacked of a central thing, and it's that we need to establish trust in online environments. And this is something that was not easy to do at the moment. Also, as another example of double spending is, for example, imagine that that we want to, for example, I want to pay Carlos also with 500 euros. Now imagine that if I pay with this money, and now I make a copy of the money. So now he has 500 euros, and I have 500 euros. There is no economic system that could work on this. Imagine that I sell my house, and now I still keep it. There's no way. But for example, now the current internet, if I send a file over internet, like a PDF of a Word file, I always keep a copy. So I have to ensure that always when I transfer something, I lose the control of it. One of the first use cases that was tested with a really big scale, it was Bitcoin. In Bitcoin, you don't transfer an asset, like from a storage A to a storage B. You just tell a shared network, hey, I'm done it. I have this coin, which now is not mine, but it's him. And I just transfer the ownership, not the asset itself. So he's only the one that can unlock the access to it. But it's not like sending from point A to point B. Yeah.
How many of you, to try to, as we said before, to try to be sure that we are trying to comment interesting things for you, how many of you know about blockchain? Okay. How many of you read the Bitcoin paper? Okay. And we were talking this morning with Danny to try to prepare the session. And I was proposing to Danny to put at the first slide, the Bitcoin, the Satoshi Nakamoto, is the name? Yeah. White paper. But one of the concerns of Danny is that in this moment all the people here start thinking in Bitcoin and not in blockchain. But now that Danny made a really good introduction, I think that we can recommend to you in some moment to read the white paper. It's super interesting, and I'm not sure if you can read, but only the abstract is, I think it's 12 or 14 pages of white paper that start this new, some people call bubble, other revolution, we don't know. But at the end, they are trying to create a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. The problem that they are trying to solve is, as Danny was trying to explain, and I think explained properly, is how we can move an asset, in this case a token, between different parties without a central authority. This system could create some inefficient process, like the computing. For this system, all the people need to have the same information stored in his database a lot of times. It's the decentralized way of trying to do that. With this way, in the moment that other people have the same information in his database, you don't need a central authority to be sure that something that you want to exchange, you have the ownership to exchange these things. And some people start talking that Bitcoin is the first maybe killer application or the first mainstream application for this kind of new decentralized network. And I think that by now it's happening. In BBVA, some people maybe start thinking why a bank is really interested in these kind of things. And it's a good question, and we used to have this conversation internally for the last 3 years and a half or 4. And we try to explain, or we try to see in different ways. One is the technology. Some people call blockchain, and other people call distributed ledger technologies. Distributed ledger technologies is something similar to the proposal of blockchain that Bitcoin created, or the authors of the people who start Bitcoin create. We used to try to use this in different ways. One is, as a technology, the blockchain technology could create to the financial industry and other industries a lot of efficiencies and to try to save a lot of costs. And I will try to put some examples. Imagine in financial industry, a lot of banks need to make the same process for know your customer. And as we are talking, I'm sure that tomorrow and today you talk about trust and identity. The know your customer and anti-money laundering is super important things. And all the financial institutions and other utilities are spending a lot of money to try to make the same process with the same individuals or companies several times. So a lot of banks and other industries around the world are trying to create a federated, not open blockchain to try to have the same procedures and to try to offer creating one time a process for know your customer for different individuals, SMBs or corporations. So I think that one of the big 4 big consultants in the world estimate that it could save to the industry in the next 3 years, I think, 60 billions, American billions. So it's huge. So as a technology, it's a super cool database for a system where you need to share memory with other people, and you don't want to create the same logic in different systems. You only want to share memory or information, and it's a good way to exchange value. The other way that the financial industry and other industries is looking to that is as an opportunity. Some people used to say, okay, the people that used to disintermediate the legacy industries, Amazon, Uber, Airbnb, they disintermediate the hotel industries, the taxi industries. A lot of people are saying that the blockchain technology, the open one, have the potential to decentralize the people who disintermediate the industries in the last 10 years. And it's the example of Uber without Uber, Facebook without Facebook, Airbnb without Airbnb. Why we think is super important, and also I will try to put 2 or 3 examples. Now, how many of you know Uber? I think that all the people here know Uber, Cabify or Lyft. One of the problems is you are an Uber driver or you are an Uber user. If you want to move to another application, Cabify, you need to make the onboarding process one more time. You need to add your payment mechanisms. But more important, you lose your reputation. If you have 4-star or 5-star in these systems, the information that this system, new platform that disintermediate the old ones, are working as a silos. So if you move from one to another, you need to start from 0. And the identity is not your own identity. The identity and the reputation and your track record is in the system of these companies. So a lot of people, the libertarians, some of them, or underground communities, are working a lot in this kind of decentralized application. And decentralized application, I will show you this. This is a list of decentralized application, the apps. Also, there are the concept of DIO, decentralized autonomous organization or corporation. In the last, you cannot see, but now there are 794. 2 years ago, I think that in this list was 10 or 20 applications. It's growing and growing every month. So the people, the communities, not only open source communities, are creating dozens of new decentralized applications every month, trying to decentralize, all the things that you can imagine.
For us, this is something really important because like most of the main companies in the world just get a competitive advantage, but turning some things like information, for example, money, or something that could be common to, who could have the common management of all of us, into artificially scarce goods. So, for example, you have my information. Like, for example, my information's value in Facebook is $80, more or less. There is no way I can take a monetary advantage of it. I'm not going to earn any money. Facebook will, and they will resell my information to another sites. Like most of the service we are seeing right now, they are getting into a concept that is called like token commons, which is like liberating value by establishing bridge into sort of different companies, turning like applications into general protocols. Carlos and I are really focused right now on the digital identity topic. This is something really interesting for us, not especially because of the regulation, which is really, really strict on this ambit. For the following months, there's coming a few regulations like EITAS and also GDPR. We think that the current concept of internet is wrong. Like, for example, we might not even know the amount of the places where our identity is saved. For example, my identity of Carlos as us might be replied in different sorts of banks, different sorts of social networks, different sorts of reputation phases of, yeah.
Or one example, one easy example, if I want to rent a car, the car renter only need to know my age, if I have a driver license, and if I had money. They don't need to know my parents' name or my mother's names or where do I live. So a lot of people are trying to talk in these 2 different concepts. what are the amount of digital information around my identity that I need to serve for some kind of exchange of value or goods or services, and who need to control yes, who need to control the identity and information. How many of you know about GDPR? Okay. Do you want to explain a little about GDPR? And also we can talk about the potential of blockchain technology in the GDPR. And Dirk, your name, Dirk?
Dirk.
Dirk, if you want to participate in this thing, please. Thank you. Well, in an easy way to explain GDPR, and please correct me, the GDPR is the General Data Regulation. Thank you. I never remember the acronym. They are going to start, I think, at the next year, in the middle of the next year, March or April, I don't remember the month. But to explain in a super, maybe easy way, is the companies need to start storing the information in a better way, and they need to take care about the potential of toxicity of the data. Now that all the people start thinking that the data is the new oil, okay, but as new oil, maybe the data is, as I say, toxicity. So you need to take care how you store and how you are under the different regulation that say how do you need to store this information. The other important thing is for the user. The law tried to put the data in the hands of the people that are creating the data, the users. So the companies need to give or have or offer a way to the user to give his data. And also the user need to have the opportunity to modify the data and to share with the people that they want. So it's going to be a challenge for a lot of companies. It's going to be a lot of opportunities for new business model, a lot of opportunities to try to use this data to create better cities, better organization, but also a lot of risks about the potential of the breach of privacy. Imagine that a user that don't have any kind of information or don't know how to manage his information, now they have the Facebook information, the Airbnb information, the driver or whatever information, and they start sharing with other companies. So the problem around privacy are huge. So we imagine, and a lot of people are imagining how blockchain and also the technologies like artificial intelligence could help to solve these problems and also exploit the huge opportunities about this new data economy. And one of the things is blockchain as a super good track record could, as I say, make a track record about how much information and with who are you sharing and what are the value exchange for this information. If some people need to pay with you, need to pay to you for this information with money, with other services, with loyalty point, whatever, the promise of the technology to try to create this new ecosystem and rails is huge. And it's one of the things that we used to talk about around identity, trust, privacy, and the potential of this new data society.
Before we were talking about trust, like how can I build trust, bridges between different sorts of individuals and companies? For example, I come from a really small town of Asturias, which is almost 30 people. So how does trust work in my town? Well, really simple. Like each house has a name. The name of my house is Casa Cellero. It's like Cellero house. So if anyone new comes to the town and wants to know something about me, they might ask to all the people that live around me. So that he say, okay, maybe Cellero's house, they pay their debts, it's okay. A problem we have with technology is that, now imagine, this is a really small town. If we go to a big city, how can I check that someone is trustable? We have to check it through big companies because they are the ones that center all the information. If I go to a really big city and I want to know my credit scoring, if I pay my debts, or if I'm a trustable person, it's not as easy as just go to the town and ask everyone. I will need to ask so many people, and it will be not really some information that you could trust. So then I need a central institution in order to check if I am someone that you could trust or not. But the cool thing about this is that we are decentralizing this. It's now if I have my information that is not replicated over different sort of thousands of places maybe that are silos, but I can just put this all together in a really simple way. Then I can get more insights about what kind of person am I, if I pay my debts. Or maybe, as he said, like for example, maybe I could be a really good driver or really good on renting cars, but maybe I'm really bad on renting books. So if I would just want to rent a car, maybe it doesn't have any sense to evaluate my credit scoring by the way I rent books. For me, there's also a really interesting thing about this, and it's like if we really want to generate analytics of the information we have about people, not only for companies, but maybe just for social good, just to understand the way cities work and give better services to the citizens. I can't process information that is stored in different set of silos. I just can't. Like for example, if I go to his bank can maybe do a credit scoring to me, or no information for me that is just on the bank. They are not going to know what kind of interactions I have in another banks or another companies yet. This has also really big social implications. Why? Well, I spent 2 months ago, 1 month in Lima, in Peru. In Peru, 78% of the population doesn't have even a bank account. How I'm supposed to rate the credit scoring of someone that maybe has no identity or no credit history? I know absolutely nothing about him. So we should establish some ways of accessing to every sort of information. But also this doesn't really scale. Like if I put all sorts of information together into a centralized place, this comes into a really big risk. Like if someone access to this that is not myself, they can steal all my personal information. And this is currently a really big business, stealing information and doing phishing.
Or put fake information about you.
Absolutely. So the way we like to do this and the way we think is the only way that this escalates is that if the control of all this information is not anymore in hundreds of different silos, but on the center place, which is the person. I should be the one that has access to all the information in real time that can allow third parties to use analytics on my information if I want, or maybe deny the access. So for example, if I don't want Facebook to have my information anymore, they are just going to lose the access of reading my information. There's also another important thing. Currently, we are moving towards a really connected environment. So for example, what do you think, example I like to give, is what do you think the iPhone 7 doesn't have a jack 3.5 millimeters audio thing anymore? Because something really simple. It makes you mandatory to use Bluetooth. As I told you before, I have a company around the topic of beacons. If I have Bluetooth and I have an environment with beacons, then I can track my activity. And I can generate information based on my habits with a personal identity, which is the identity of my phone. This is not anything from the future. If you go right now to Google Maps and just type a well-known restaurant from here, you will be able to know the amount of people that is there right now. And they use beacons for this. So privacy is a really big concern in this because we are getting more and more connected. Our way we like to solve this issue is, okay, if I want to do onboarding or to, for example, answer a question for a company, imagine that now I go into a disco. Like the guy at the card tells me, okay, Danny, show me your ID. Okay, when I show him my ID, I'm showing my name, my personal number, who my parents are, where do I live. Should I just, give him all this information? Absolutely not. So the way we're trying to solve this is simplifying, making this way more simple. Just with maybe not even like, what is your age? But just maybe, okay, does this guy, is he able to go inside? Yes or no? Is this guy able to get this credit? Yes or no?
Excuse me, I would like to say something. First of all, thank you for coming here. And I'm glad that this is the first conference I assist and your opinion about the device people should use in the future to manage their identity? Thinking that if we choose somehow to use a mobile phone, for example, we don't have to forget that out there are like 2 billion people, unbanked people that probably they don't have the necessary education to manage their identity in a safe mode, you know?
Or here, you don't need to go to the countries in development.
I know,
I'm with you.
I'm speaking maybe in a global situation and in a perfect situation. And I really think that blockchain is a solution that is looking for problems, you know? So maybe someone in the future will find a correct way to give the identity back to the people, and probably it will be used the blockchain technology. So what do you think about the devices that people should use in the future to manage their identity?
Well, it's super difficult, and just yesterday I read an article that some company announced that they are going to launch the next year a mobile phone connecting with a blockchain called IOTA. It's a blockchain prepared for Internet of Things. Trying to give the data to this blockchain and not to the companies. But for me, it's a tricky and difficult thing, and the individuals and the society need to learn and understand what are the opportunities and also the challenge and the risks. And they need to start, and also the regulators and the governments, with laws at GDPR, they need to start explaining, and the governments and the people understanding how they need to control this data. One of the things, for example, you have the hardware. The hardware is a main problem, but also you have the software. The same way is with your, not only mobile phone, with a computer, you have your silos of information with Facebook and other networks, and also banks, of course. You have the silos with hardware. We need to think the way how my activity goes to a silos or go to a decentralized public or semi-public database. For me, when we used to talk, and we were talking that we don't want to explain blockchain again. Yes, because I think that I don't know now how to explain blockchain. But my point is, I don't care about blockchain. Of course, I care. But for me, there are the concept, immutability, the historic information that you have, and this double spending, and other main attributes of blockchain. But I don't care if it's blockchain, graph, or whatever. This is like the TCP at the beginning of the 18th or 70s. We need to start thinking, and we will put now a slide talking about the FAT protocols, how we can create on the top of this, using these functionalities. For me, the people need to start taking care about my data is my data. And imagining a scenario that this is the first challenge, and we think with people in meetups and underground community, and also in my day-by-day job, thinking as all the banks are thinking, okay, we manage money, why do we don't start managing data as a new value? And we are thinking in this kind of bank of data. A lot of banks are thinking the same way. The point is, okay, we are going to start a huge amount of data, and you have a mobile application, like banking application or whatever. And a lot of people is going to start asking for your data, and they are going to start offering things. The people, I think also I will not have the opportunity to deal with more than 15, 30, 50 data requests every day, giving you a Starbucks point, free holidays, whatever, or points for travel. It's going to be super tricky. So someone needs to put some kind of regulation and also education about what data do you need, or is good to share with who, for what. And I think the first place is the data broker, the data manager. And for me, a lot of people say, okay, if you see blockchain also as a silo, it's a problem, it's a solution looking for problem. But if you see as a combination of other technologies, you have IoT. A lot of people are creating awesome things in industries now. You think artificial intelligence. When you think the combination, and of course cloud and mobile, when you see the combination of this, a lot of people are saying, okay, blockchain could make standards or offer a standard to IoT, because the IoT now is super fragmented. But artificial intelligence could offer usability to blockchain. So in my point of data, for me, in 10 years, how I imagine, or it's super difficult to imagine now in 10 days or in 5, is like some kind of artificial intelligence system will recommend to me or will act by his own or its own trying to deal with my data. It's how I imagine, because for me, it's going to be impossible for a regular people or training people to deal with all the data requests that they are going to have in a day-by-day regular life. I don't know your opinion.
This artificial intelligence should be controlled by no one.
Yes, it's a scary thing.
That's a really important concern, yeah.
Cool. So at this point, please.
Quick clarification question. When you say blockchain, do you actually mean blockchain and other distributed ledger technologies, or do you mean purely blockchain?
Well, how I see, and I don't know your opinion, my vision of the next year is that we are going to live with private blockchain or federated blockchain and with public one. And the same way that we are now living with internet and intranets, the people forget that we are living with intranet. When you make a call or a request to a bank, your request is going through internet, a general network, and at the end goes to an intranet, a bank, and to a legacy system, get information and offer to the user. So they are mixing intranets and internet networks, more or less. Now my vision is we are going to have public blockchain with federated blockchain combining and working together.
For me, I think it's more simple. For example, Richard Gendel from R3, he had like this big discussion saying, no, we don't use blockchains at R3.
DLT technology.
So, but now he came back with, he said, okay, we use blockchain. So most of the use cases we work with huge companies and institutions, we don't use blocks. So we don't pack information into blocks, we do it into a batch. So it's a different process, and we don't use miners, we don't use these sort of things that are just used to some sort of open networks. So the core thing we do is just ledgers that are distributed. And even a ledger is not a database. So it's something we didn't say before. A ledger has its own accountability unit, which is a token. So for example, if we want to use a ledger that doesn't have its own cryptocurrency, it's its token, then we are talking about a database, which is also a thing that has a way different maturity right now here. So for most of the use cases, we just create a system that allows different companies to set a accountability that is distributed. And this accountability could be about not just only financial things, or just money, it could be any sort of asset, it could be any sort of information we could monetize. So it's like any sort of property you could use on a database, on a ledger, sorry. And we are now moving towards systems that, this is something we do discuss a lot, about how can we distribute also information, not just financial accounting or all sort of accounting. How can I make a person to be the owner of its information, but don't allocate all the information into a single place? How can we make people into access to all this information that is allocated in everywhere, in all the world? And this is something that is called a secure multi-party computation, which is something really close to...
We will explain now later. I don't know if we answer your question or we comment your question or we are totally lost.
I think you skirted around the question. That's okay.
Oh, no, but we can, I think it's a good question, but we want to talk more about this, or if you have a specific question, we could try to comment.
I will let you continue.
Okay.
We discuss over adult beverages tonight.
Okay. So one of the things that we were commenting, and is one of the posts that we used to comment here and with all the people, is the concept of path protocols. We will try to explain without too technical parts, but this is a post from the last years from one guy of Junior Square Venture. It's a venture capital in New York.
Joel Monegro.
Yes, the portfolio of these companies in the last 15 years or 13 years is awesome. So they used to understand what is happening and what are the trends.
They knew that the business models were going to decentralize into platforms. So they were the first that say, okay, Yahoo is not going to be the one that is going to create all the value and the information. Say, okay, maybe the ones that are going to create information are those ones, like the individuals. So they have invested in Facebook, they have invested in Twitter, even in Airbnb, Uber, and so on. And now they are
investing a lot of money in blockchain protocols and infrastructure and also application. And how they describe or try to, to describe is, now the web that we have now is a slim layer of protocols. It's TCP/IP, FTP, and other ones, not too many. And we have a super big application layer. And the application layer is databases, logic, front-end, APIs. And we have silos of this. Okay, so this is a mess. And they are imagining, or the people are imagining, some people, with blockchain, we could have that. A protocol layer ruled by tokens or fueled by tokens. A blockchain maybe could be here, and a lot of other applications on the top of blockchain, because blockchain is not good for storing information. Blockchain is not good for storing video. Blockchain is not good for high performance. But blockchain is only a part of this stack, of this vision. You can use here decentralized storage system. You can have decentralized computation system, or you can use other protocols. And now the people are trying, with the bubble of ICOs, the people are creating a lot of tries of these protocols. And I think it's one of the more, for me, it's awesome vision of what is happening. And talking about secure multi-party computation, there is a department in MIT that are working in this concept. The secure multi-party computation, as Danny was explaining, is now the problem, or one of the people are, I don't know what, I don't have here. The concept of these guys is, or this team, is why we are trying to move data around the world and trying to move the data to the algorithms. Why is if the algorithms could move to the data? In this case, you don't need to exchange the data and to be scared about your privacy. So they are proposing the OPAL is open algorithms, secure multi-party computation, and Enigma is one of the ways that some people are trying this. The concept, the maths behind is super complex, but the concept is not difficult. They are trying to store information in a crypto way, and you can launch model to this information. And no once, never decrypt this information. You only will receive the output. And you can send money or value to make these queries to this database. This database could be centralized or could be distributed or decentralized around the world. And for me, it's one of the most promising technology to this new trust and data era.
At the end of the day, it's like if I put like really sensible information on a blank page, and then I break it into 1,000 pieces, and I give any one of you a piece of it. So just by it yourself, you won't be able to read this information or have anything valuable about it. But what we can do with this is like the final user or the one that have access to the information, just where you identification with your private key, you will be able to unlock the access and read information that is secure in thousands of places maybe. So this is something that, it's the only way currently to really secure the information of people while making accessible.
Well, at this moment, we can talk more and more about this thing, but we would love to know what are you more interested about blockchain technologies like Ethereum, another one, Hyperledger, R3, there are others. Blockchain ecosystem, what is happening around the world. Daniel used to travel a lot. I also used to travel a lot and meet with a lot of people and communities. Use cases around industries. I know a lot about financial use cases, and Daniel knows about a lot of other industries. What are or trust and identity, what are you more interested about? Or maybe you are not interested. Energy?
Okay. In energy, we are doing sort of really, really different things. When we work with technology, we can use it to do the things we do currently better. So, for example, we want to do like work on energy markets. So, for example, the different accountancy problems we have from the ones that, for example, how do you measure the amount of electricity that is generated in a system? Then how do you measure the amount of energy you lose when you are transporting it? And then how do you properly measure the demand? Like currently, all the different layers also need like centralized pieces, also the same as banks do. And certainly they have many issues with this, especially accountancy issues. So basically, we're building also in these sort of industries. Currently, it's more like messaging systems. Now, one of the best use cases I've seen currently is a consortium called Ponton in Germany. They are like doing a consortium of almost all the European utility companies, and they are building an energy market. But it's also like a messaging thing. But also we can use it for accountancy. In my experience, I'm doing also different things, also with energy companies, because we are trying to change the user experience. I'll give you an example. Currently, my relationship with my energy company is the one that I have on their offices or at my house. The problem is, in Spain, for example, you have 3 houses. I have 3 different contracts with the energy company, not one. Why? I should have one because I'm the only one customer. And also, if, let's say, for example, now imagine I have a Tesla. I would love to. But, like, for example, the P100D. Now imagine that I'm going to have dinner at Carlos' place. And now I'm like out of energy. So I say, hey, Carlos, I want to charge my car at your place. He might say, hey, Danny, that's a lot of cost. Like, charging this car is almost like 5 days of energy of a full house, approximately. Now, I've been doing something really interesting. It was a project of smart plugs. A smart plug is just a really simple identity layer on top of a plug. So I can interact with it. If I have a smart plug which has an identity, my car has its own identity, which is the chassis, how do you spell?
What?
Chassis?
Chassis, I don't know how to say the number of the car.
Yeah, the number of the car when it comes from the factory. And then I have the identity of the individual. He has the account of on the electric company. Then it starts something really interesting. And it's that I can just go to Carlos' place, I can charge my car, and the bill will come to me, not just to him.
Well, there are other alternatives, and we are working in our lab in some of them.
But let me finish for a little
Sorry.
The thing that really interests me here is that now, before I had the relationship with the electric company, that was just on the office or my place. But now, it goes with me. So, for example, if I go now to his place, then the company that's going to be behind me is this company. If I want to go to wait to my bus, and on the bus station there is a plug, but I have to create a Starbucks account in order to use the plug, then I'm creating a business model over an electrical company. And this is like electricity is just not the final good we are making money into, it's just the currency.
Yes. As one of the examples to try to add more use cases, we are working with other companies thinking, okay, what are the identity of the things? In the example of the car, you are the owner of the car, but maybe the car is a sharing car or a car to go that you use and you pick and you rent and you want to charge. Maybe the car needs to have a wallet. So the cars could pay or could get the money. So we are talking a lot about what are the financial needs of different things, what are the relation with energy, because energy is super important for a lot of things, for all the world. The other thing is, okay, you have the Bolton consortium, what do you call it? Bolton. They are trying to work also to try to have this messaging system between different electricity companies. But also a lot of people in Germany and other countries are trying to create the decentralized energy concept. They want to create not only centralized, big, super fabric of energy, they are trying to create a small system where you can create, or not, you cannot create energy, I know, where you can get energy, sorry. And with this, you can start sharing the energy with other people of the network. And one more time, for this, the concept or the functionality that blockchain offer really work really well. And the electron is super similar to a token. But this is another thing.
The main disruption will come when we will be able to transfer and transact with energy peer-to-peer. But we need microgrids for that. I've been also working on a project on this. But the thing is, like, if we do this on a really small amount of people, then if I want an energy market, every sort of market, in order to work, it needs liquidity. So how do I get liquidity between 20 people? I'm not going to get it. Also, like many different systems that are going to that are tested right now have like an order book. So if I just want to buy energy from a neighbor, I'm not going to use an order book. Maybe I just ring him or I call him. It will be much easier. So at the end of the day, you need to get all the normal market prices in order to set the prices for the neighborhood. But the coolest thing will be doing that, just exchanging peer-to-peer energy. And yeah, current transport methods of sending energy to one place to another are just completely inefficient because you lose the energy. So that's something we're going to see. But the current cost of here, like of changing all the infrastructure, is crazy. But it has more sense to do this on Africa, for example, many different places where you don't have no electricity at all. So it has sense to test and to create new systems from scratch. But it's really difficult to argue with current governments and so on. Why should I get rid of all the electrical systems and move to a system like this? This is not going to happen in a while, we think.
Let's see. More topics or more questions?
So you guys largely work in the Ethereum framework?
Yes.
And that means that when you look at a token, when they design tokens, they're made for fungible, tradable goods. And that means when this has no more value than that, it's all the same. People are doing development, whether it's token-based or state-based, for specific identification, for asset-based, for non-fungible goods, like a particular diamond or a particular bottle of wine. How do you recommend when you're not just doing something fungible, but you are trying to do specific identification, specific assets?
About technology or about how to start working with this?
Well, I mean, would you do that with Ethereum? Would you do tokens? Would you do states? Would you choose a different framework? Would you choose a distributed ledger instead of a blockchain? Do you care about proof of work? Do you care
It's a really good question. If we start working in a public blockchain, at this moment, I think that I will start thinking to use token. If you are using real things like bottle of wine, for me it's a tokenization of this bottle of wine. For me, it's the same that the people are talking a lot about digital, and most of the people are creating digitalization, not poor digital products.
You want, in many cases, to have public provenance. You want to know that that Rolex watch is actually
Well, but for me there are two different things. One is how you tokenize this asset, physical asset. Did you represent with the tokens? After
How
that,
do you guarantee the origin? The
yes,
provenance?
but after that you have a state machine to try to be sure what are the first one to take care of this, what are the second one. For this we are working, other people are thinking some kind of proof of delivery. But for this you need to have two enablers. Identity, common system for identity, because if you are dealing with China or with other countries, who are you know that this company are under your regulation of, I don't know, chemistries or drugs or other things with, I don't know, chickens or other kind of animals. Now, Walmart started a project with that. So my first concern about this is how you can create this connected system to really know that this identity that they are saying is good for you. Because the provenance is not too difficult. It's a complex problem, but it's not, for me, it's not the main problem. Because you can tokenize the things and you can create a state. You can put as a log record every stage of this supply chain process or this chain.
But we always have problems. Like, I'll give you an example. I have also run a project and I wanted to certify the origin of the energy. Like in Spain, for example, we have something really curious. So the government gave green subsidies. So we have solar generators that were producing energy at night. So how can you really certify that? So you can certify the amount of light you are generating of electricity. But it's really difficult to certify the first step. You usually need authority to do that. And that's, yeah.
At the end is, as we say, you need to have some kind of centralized authority to say that this thing starts in which point, or you need some kind of special hardware with some kind of identity inside to be sure that the provenance of this thing starts in this point.
Well, do we really need identity, or I just need to be able to present my key to say, look, I own this Rolex watch, and I'm standing at you.
Yes, but the Rolex, imagine with the Rolex, and depending if you want to to demonstrate the ownership of the Rolex is different because you can say, okay, I buy this, you give me a ticket or an invoice, and I have the key to demonstrate that I'm the owner. But if you want to be sure that all the materials that is in your Rolex are under, for example, not under blood diamond, blood diamantes, how do you can say? Blood diamond. You need to be sure where all this part starts. And for this, I don't have now a solution. And I don't know how to make this because you can have a key, public or private, but you don't know how these people get this key or who give.
But many times you need to centralize this. For example, with this case I was working with, for example, in Spain, people were using like gas generators in order to produce energy, and then tried it to appear that it was green energy. But the thing, as a way to solve this, is that you need someone to certify that if you generate a certain amount of kilowatts a day, and if you generate way more, there is something suspicious. So also you should need sort of a certification of the amount of energy, for example, you can produce. But of course you need a centralized party that has trust for that in order to certify that you have the capability to do something. Because otherwise, blockchain can give you mutability, can give you the provenance of information, but this information is fake, then it has no value.
For example, 2 years ago, we started working with some of our PhD guys in our lab in a project called Decentralized Identity, to try to understand if we could create identities without any kind of central parties. And we start trying, the models work really well in the paper, but our problem is how we can create the tipping point. So how many people do you need to be sure that this guy is a valuable guy or this company is a valuable system? Maybe do you have better question, a better answer for this, or how we can solve the problem of certification in a provenance system or the different part of the actor of the process?
Rather than the certification agencies being afraid to be disrupted, just integrate them in the process and they still have their reason of existing. You will always need these touch points, like a counter in a bank where the banker meets the client, or like a certification agency that certifies that you are you and issues you an EID card, for instance. So integrate them into the blockchain as well, rather than trying to disrupt what they're actually doing. And for me, these are the touch points where you make the link between the physical world and the blockchain world, the tokens.
Well, I think this solution will work really well. Other romantic solution is, as the same way that you have in eBay or in Amazon, your reputation, because it's after a lot of exchanges.
That means we have to start from the scratch to create our...
But if you start from scratch, you need to be sure that you are going to live 1 month, 2 years, or 3 years with a little or big chaos, and in some moment you will have some kind of...
Well, this reputation management is a good idea up to the point that governments are hiring hundreds and hundreds of people to actually change the mood about you or other persons on the social media, and then you might come up with a result that you're not really happy with.
Yes, the dystopias.
There's also like a really interesting thing to, for example, they said I was working with people from hospitals and insurance, like medical insurance. So for example, there's also a very big concern about this. Imagine that now I have cancer of a really big illness. Then if this information is public and anyone can access to it, okay, if I have like perfect health, it would be really good for me. I will pay really few for my personal insurance. But if I have something like this, no one will want to insure me. So we have to be really careful about the way we want to give free access to information. And it's something we used to talk in the past, that is like, we will need maybe like to have the concept of the reputational bankrupt. So we should need to establish some mechanism. So what happens when someone is excluded from society because no one trusts him? Or because something like this, like you have something that you have not chosen, but just a mental illness, or maybe we have access to so much information that I can say, okay, you have this sort of genetic code that tells me that you're going to probably have cancer or you're going to have Parkinson. and you can know many things of this. So then we might get so many people out of the system. So yeah, so for some things we have to be careful
super
about
tricky things. More questions, thoughts?
Lately, in the last month, there have been several formal reports from central banks like ECB-MIR of Japan or the German central bank saying
Canadians.
that the technology behind it after doing proof of concept is immature for the next at least 2 years or something.
ECB say the opposite. They did an inform with real-time gross payments, which is something that gets into like next year, and even they did it with the previous version of Fabric. So it was like an obsolete version of Hyperledger, and even with the obsolete version, it already matches the requirements for RGTS. And the platform really evolved during the last 6-8 months. So the technology is just mature enough
For me,
most of the use cases. But regulation
also,
is not.
I agree with Daniel, but also I agree with you that if the people say that for all the use cases, the technology is not too mature, maybe it's right. If they want to start tomorrow to start issuing crypto, but if you think, I remember, and maybe you have more information, some of you, 3 years ago, a lot of people started saying, no, blockchain is something for the next 15 years. And in the next 6 months, the people start saying 8 years and 2 years.
Which is your thoughts regarding, because those are very formal statements which are widely published and the sources are supposed to be serious. So the question is, you're saying that they were working with older versions of the
Hyperledger, yeah.
If I was a government or a tax, the Hacienda tax department, it's like a dream.
Yeah.
A dream.
A dream. You can put the regulator into the system. I can, for example, now payments, bills go separately. I could make both things to go together, and just when I pay a receipt, it could go to pay taxes directly.
So just to say that there is enormous amounts being published, which is just rubbish. And if you really know what it is about, the truth, that you will probably not read in what is publicly available magazines and so on. And if serious organizations make reports, my feeling is, it's just my personal feeling, that they're often very political to say in polite words that it's not black, not white, but that it's still coming. So that's my very personal opinion about it.
Super interesting opinion.
But really, if you know a little bit the topic and you read what is being written about it on LinkedIn, on social media, on whatever, you start to give Donald Trump some credit because it's all fake news.
So, more questions?
Or only thoughts?
which is the status of blockchain in Spain?
Good question.
Early stage.
Do you want to comment anything,
yeah.
Maria?
Maria, you want to sell?
No?
the mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
You could answer this.
no. As a resume, we think that in the last 1 year or 2 years, a lot of people start with Bitcoins and Daniel, I think, was one of this wave that start at the beginning. And there are several meetups and a lot of people in the underground communities working with blockchain technologies, also with Bitcoins and Ethereum. In the last, I think, 2 or 3 or 4 years, more people start coming to this ecosystem, but thinking more in speculation. There are other parts. And now, in the last 2 years, a lot of people start thinking from companies, startups, universities, that this is awesome, and Spain cannot lose this wave. And we are working together to create Blockchain España, the Alastria Consortium, to try to create different ecosystem of innovation. So I think that now Spain also is behind in some concepts as UK that are making really good reports or other countries, but I think that we are in a really, really good position about the work that we make in the last year, and mostly in the last years and a half. My opinion.
For me, as one of the people that wanted to do the first business here in Spain, it was really complicated at first because the regulator was really against us. We couldn't work with banks, and Bitcoin was not even legally recognized. It was really difficult. Now there's many initiatives. Yeah? One of them, like the Alastria Consortium. We have Maria here. That is one of the...
Alastria.
Alastria. Yeah. It was previously called Lira, but because copyright thing, now it's Alastria. What we want to do is, by one side, with Alastria Consortium, try to build standards for different technologies. So the Alastria Consortium is not a consortium that creates technology, but one that sets the rules in order to consume, to demand this technology.
To create this network, but not only a network, the platform. More important for me is to try to create the ecosystem around.
We have another leg, which is called Bitcoin Blockchain España, which is, its goal is to create community, to teach people, to give like the tools for people in order to get a proper level with this. But actually, for example, before we were talking about like how many people is coding, for example, Ethereum, and we were like, okay, with really good coders, and we was like, so really low number. So still, we are really mature, like as an ecosystem, but it's growing. Like for us, as we see everything really close. We have seen like a really big change from the last 8 to 9 months, I would say. So it's going to evolve really fast. But currently, we are a bit far away because also like most of our companies have a bigger aversion to risk, and also the regulators. So we don't have a sandbox, for example, that allow us to deploy startups in a really easy way. It's really complicated, especially on the legal side, because you would need the regulation of a bank, for example, if you scale a bit your operations. And you are not a bank, you are just a startup, like trying to do something to create value. So also we need to, well, there are many conversations about how to create a sandbox here in Spain. Like many people is trying to move this topic, but we are still a bit far from that. Like as another countries, Singapore, London, even Australia, and so on. So we definitely need that in order to accelerate things. We don't have ICOs in Spain.
Well, we have the first one.
Answer this.
Now, there are several people in Spain working in ICOs. Most of them are creating the entities outside of Spain, Singapore, Gibraltar. And also, I'm part of a company that are trying to create a platform to help the people launch good ICOs, not scam ICOs. Let's see what's happened. And there is a lot of hype in other countries around ICOs. Most of them about the speculation and easy money in the market. But a lot of people are really interesting conversation around the tokens, tokenization, cryptoeconomics, and what are the things that make sense at this moment to make. And I think it's the last question, because I think we are running the time.
We have still space for a couple of questions if you want to participate.
If any case, we will
But
be
if there
super
are no
happy
more
to
questions-
share or connect with you outside, or
I have a final question. How far do you think we are to see 100% blockchain application running on the street? No? Do you think by the people?
this is the 1 million, the 1 million token question.
I know the question, but the answer, but
My point, the first or when?
I mean, how far we are to see
And what is the number? 100 million people using our push blockchain application, 10 million?
I'm not talking about the critical mass, of course. I'm not talking about the application of WhatsApp, you know? I mean, let's say a bank can do application based on the social economy, for example.
Well,
So you never use like full blockchain. You use artificial intelligence. But we envision like a blockchain like glue, like it's a technology, more a platform to make some technologies that complement each other to work better. But I mean, at the end of the day, we don't use like full blockchain systems. We use IoT. We use layers to analyze the data, identity layers. We use different sorts of systems to complement each other. So for example, it has more sense to many different systems to use blockchain as the base communication layer, because it's way better for gaining trust between different parties.
For me, if you say it at the technology, for consortiums or federation of companies or under companies, now I used to say, the people, the business guys, now they used to say, I want to make this with blockchain. I say, why? Are you talking about public blockchain? No. In this case, what are you giving opinion about the database that we are going to use? The same way that they don't say non-SQL or other kind of databases. If you say public blockchain, we are waiting for the killer app.
No, for example, okay, your question was short, but in the case of B2B application, for example, they interact directly with blockchain, changing the Bitcoins to euros.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
No, you don't really do that. You do that, plus using the Halcas network, which is not based on blockchain, and you use that.
Interaction, between the final client and the blockchain, because without the blockchain, this is not possible.
Fully doing, like JP Morgan has some of his internal system even working on.
Yes, another company. Ripple. Well, we put money with Ripple in between different countries in real time.
I know.
But this is not mass.
Okay, I work for Accenture. I know almost everything.
Yes, almost everything. Accenture is Illuminati. No, please, there.
Well, just as an example, which is very close to real life, not to say real life, you have a bank with multinational operations, all different countries, and you have corporations that are client of that bank. So when a corporation expands into a new region, it goes to the bank over there, and there is specific legislation in that country: Singapore, Hong Kong, New York, South Africa, Argentina, and so on and so forth. So first of all, legislation is different, so the requirements for the client to do business in those different legislations are different. But there is a basic set of data that go on the blockchain that are standard, for that corporation, the incorporation documents, the bylaws, and all that type of stuff. So you can imagine that the base layer goes on the blockchain, and that the specifics, they pop up because there's data missing for that legislation in that country regarding the way to do business with that corporate client in that legislation. And this is something where blockchain is super extremely practical, because you do not have to do within the bank, if you're a global bank, 50 times the same work. So you take out 49 times the work from what clerks should be doing in the bank immediately. So that's a rather close to real life application, but it applies to very big organizations with those very specific problems of working in different legislations, and blockchain, or more specifically DLT in that case, is a well-fit solution for that. And that's really fun, This is exciting stuff.
This is operational, or it's a proof of concept?
Very close.
So,
okay.
Thank you to all of you.
Thank you all for. I think they deserve our applause. Derek, Carlos, and Danny. Well, this is workshop track 2 and 3. Workshop track 3 was very interesting because we were talking 5 minutes ago about brainstorming on financial regulatory data dictionary, ontologies, semantics, and so on, and taxonomies. We had a hard debate over there, but now they are closing it at the same time. We meet tomorrow, Dirk. We at 11:45 with Mirik. That's the only workshop that I haven't visited yet, but we should exchange experiences too. Tomorrow we have an extensive and very, very useful agenda for everyone. I declare closed this first session. See you tomorrow. Okay.
Vosotros. estábamos en los días, queremos